Outbound in the building.
What I had to do was basically double my team, hire 7 BDRs, some enterprise BDRs.
You don't need to obsessively prepare to sales meetings.
You don't need to obsessively prepare for sales meetings.
There are 3 topics we said we're going to cover in this podcast. One of them being launching Outbound for companies where Outbound didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And the second item will be AI's visibility, like I mentioned. And last but not least, we're going to talk about some unpopular opinions we both have and to confront this about sales and marketing. Let's kick it off and welcome to our podcast called Only Pipeline in the Building. And this is where we talk about pipeline, about all things around it, especially from marketing and sales perspective. And this is why I'm here and in this conversation, right? Because in the past 7 years, I've been leading teams for marketing in B2B. And in my current role, I'm the director of growth for a company called WalkMe. And Sean, this is why we talk in each week. A, because we're friends, and B, because I'm in marketing and you're in sales, right?
That is true.
When someone asks you, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself to a stranger, right? About what you do. Imagine you are in convention.
Okay, I will. I'm a Canadian transplant, originally from Toronto, and living in Amsterdam as the director of sales at a tech company here called Customer Gauge. And like you said, we're friends, we were colleagues, and we maintained that relationship over the last little while. And so, as I think the thinking is, right, in order to stay as friends, either as males or otherwise, at one point you do a podcast together. So here we are, and this is how we're spending our Sunday afternoon, which I've been looking forward to so far this week.
Yeah, me too. I actually spent like the entire week thinking about what we're going to do next, what's going to be interesting to someone who's keen to learn more about the relationship between sales and marketing and how can we optimize, how B2B companies can optimize. Sounds like a stretch, right? But how can someone understand better this relationship and use it to generate pipeline? This is the name of the podcast, right? And yeah, so this is why we're here. And for me, it was like a tough weekend because I did a 10K running in Tel Aviv night run, and I barely walked back home. It was really, really a tough time. So I'm proud of myself. I got a medal to show.
Congratulations.
Right? If someone's listening to this is a medal that has, thank you. This medal lights up when you turn it in the right direction. And yeah, so I'm pretty proud of myself. And also, like, another reason I'm proud is one of our vendors actually got acquired by HubSpot. They have an AI visibility tool. Their product is called XFunnel. And yeah, they just announced it over the weekend. And this is part of our agenda to talk about it a little bit more about AI visibility and what that is. So I'm super excited. So Sean, how was your week/weekend, man?
Yeah, thanks, Yuval. That sounds pretty exciting. Congratulations again. I'm happy to hear you completed that 10K. We didn't talk about whether or not you ran the whole time or if you walked some of it, but we'll just assume you ran this week.
The whole time, man.
In terms of this week, yeah, well, you're talking to me on Sunday. So I was up early European time around 1:30 a.m. this morning watching my Toronto Blue Jays unfortunately lose the World Series in Game 7. So pretty heartbroken about that, but that's okay because no one expected it this year. And I think, it's a great ride. I just continue to dry my tears. So, I'll try to keep it together for this podcast. And in terms of work this week, yeah, I mean, it's been end of October, moving into November, very much in the meat of Q4 at this point in time. A lot of different things happening at work. You touched on AI visibility, but we're actually launching an AI chatbot on our website, which is actually pretty cool. So potentially we can talk about that a little bit later and trying to do everything we can as a company at that kind of top of funnel to engage and provide the right information to potential prospects. And yeah, I mean, just looking forward to November for the most part, Yuval.
Yeah. Sales season is coming up, and we have also like a lot to cover in the few minutes we have together for this week, right? So there are 3 topics we said we're going to cover in this podcast. One of them being launching Outbound for companies where outbound didn't exist. And the second item will be AI's visibility, like I mentioned. And last but not least, we're going to talk about some unpopular opinions we we both have, and to confront this about sales and marketing. Let's kick it off. And Sean, because you're writing a book about this, right? We do a pre-launch movie. It's not a movie. It's going to turn into a movie, but
Yeah,
a
of
book
course.
release. So tell me a little bit what when you're launching an outbound motion for a company that didn't have that in the past. What are your thoughts? Like, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so as Yuval, you said that I'm writing a book. I'm not necessarily writing a book about, an outbound strategy, but really that's the main thing that I wanted to talk about today, because as part of being, both you and I were what I we're young managers, people leaders, and as we spoke about in the last podcast, like with responsibility. And I'm trying to write some of my learnings and lessons down over time as a manager to help others and potentially learn from my pitfalls, potentially learn from the successes, and kind of I guess, yeah, just learn from what's made me just that this like modicum of successful so far. And so uh Yuval, you and I worked together at Sysaid, I think, for about a year, until there was kind of a mandate through our CRO that we needed to create an outbound strategy. Do I have that right? It was about a
I
year.
think that's about right.
Yeah. And so Yuval and I had been working together for a little bit of time leading up to that. And then, yeah, we were basically told together to set up Outbound for the organization. And what I had to do was basically double my team, hire 7 BDRs, some enterprise BDRs, some SMB BDRs, and do something with it, pipeline expectations that had never been seen before at this company. Right. And I think Yuval, I think the first topic of conversation between us is really like maybe the war for attribution that we experienced throughout that, and trying to understand what source. You and I were sort of at odds, or became at odds, due to sources behind what the BDR team was producing versus what the inbound machine was producing. So I'm curious what your recollection of that time was.
Yeah, I remember that. Like, I think we were both like, it's also about where we were as young managers, as you said, right? We wanted to prove that we're bringing value to the company. We were assigned with, let's call it, different funnels to optimize in some ways. And it's also about the ground rules that was set up for this program. And I think, and maybe you can speak about it a little bit more, about how to actually build something, a new channel, a new revenue stream that didn't happen before. And that kind of clashes sometimes if we're talking about attribution. And now I have a different perspective of attribution and the way it should be measured. A lot has changed in the way we gather cookies and we track the user behavior on the website and stuff like this. So of course it changes things, but also about the influence, because at the end of the day, we are one team. And this is the way you and I learned how to work together, and also the way I'm working with my current counterparts. I can't succeed if my sales counterpart is not hitting their goals. And my responsibility here, and this is I learned, right? I don't feel like it was my initial way of reacting to some of the initiatives, but that I just need to do whatever I can to just support this initiative and not, I'll put it like this, right? The company needed a new revenue stream, and we both need to support this, right? And it took for me some time to understand how to support it correctly.
Yeah, yeah. And as you were talking about, it made me think. I'm going to get this wrong, but imagine there's different eras of outbound prospecting, right? I'm sure someone has already defined this, but let's say, first era, someone starts prospecting via email, right? Second era is like the tech boom, like post 2010s, when like all these companies start being funded, and you start getting like sequencing tools, and then third era, you look at like automations and all that. And I feel like when we first started up Outbound at Sysaid, like we were kind of like late, like third era, because we started using an ABM tool, for example. I think this was, yeah, we started using an ABM tool, and there's this kind of burgeoning wave of dark web identification and de-anonymization and all this sort of stuff that through tools like RB2B and others like have just become really a natural part of the tech stack. And so when I teach you up with that question about like this war for attribution, like you and I were both saddled up with large responsibilities. And for whatever reason, like part of our relationship, like actually fractured for a period of time, right? Because we were being pulled in two different directions as a result of an inability or like, maybe not an inability, just like a selfish need on both sides, right? To say like, no, these are my results. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, I remember going home from work one day being like, this guy, man, like being so upset at you. And I had never experienced that before leading up to trying to build this outbound program for the first time.
Yeah. And I think in order for something like this to really kick off, it just needs the right angle of investment. And it goes both ways, meaning for a lot of companies, they only have outbound. I think that the you have a healthy ratio in most companies of like outreach and inbound, right? For the case to be built and to build like really a system and an engine that provides results, it requires everyone on board. And I think this is why like it really had some birth pains, the way we say in Hebrew. Like to really kind of deliver that, it needed to take a lot of people from a lot of different places, rev ops and
Totally.
marketing operations and create this alignment and create, the ABM strategy and the SLAs and the ROE, right? Rules of engagement.
Yeah.
To get this all together, this is the really challenging part. And also, it's about how we set the expectations. Because if someone tells me, go to this company, they now get 10 leads a month and make it 100, then I'll spread it out and I say, listen, guys, those are the things that need to happen in order for us to get to 100. And it's not going to be just pour money on this problem or just put personnel on this problem. It requires alignment. It requires a well-defined audience, and it also requires a product that actually speaks the same language as, the audience and the alignment. So I think getting those three together is what can make this successful.
Yeah. I think to your point, like I have never worked with more people cross functionally than I did, like setting up this program. And I'm just going to talk about myself for a moment in that situation. I think that was, I was 28 or 29 when that happened. And like my boss, like you were in Israel, right? And your boss was in Israel, who I was also interfacing with. And my boss was in the UK and trying to not only operate within a structure, but build the structure while you're operating it remotely. And then to have a team of, I think grew to like 14 at one point at 28. I remember that being one of the most like stressful, formative experiences of my career. And one of the things I also want to kind of touch on, again, it's on the kind of the personal or softer side of leadership, but is like dealing with that stress when this huge responsibility, I guess, is put on you. And I'm someone you all like, I want to do my best, always. Like I want people to like what I do and like me while I'm doing it, right? Which is something we can talk about at another point. But in our company, while you and we would report on our results biweekly, right? Tuesdays and Thursdays. So every morning, I'd be reporting on both my inbound SDR teams and my outbound BDR teams results. Not a lot changes between Tuesday and Thursday, but regardless, we'd have to make these updates anyways. And man, I remember like laying in my bed at like 5 a.m., staring at the ceiling, trying to calm myself down ahead of like this reporting. And in the room would be the entire executive team, right? Amongst your peers. And so I think my learnings were a couple things. Number one is I learned how to speak a good story, and we touched on this in the last session, and I'll expand on that a little bit. But also like how I've come to terms with just dealing with stress, and I'll ask you the same things in return. But so when I would go into the executive briefings, right? So the lessons that I learned, and hopefully you saw that I got better over time at, I don't know, because Yuval was obviously in there as well. I was number one, right? Understand your business and know your numbers, right? Like I would go in there and try to know the numbers the best that I could, my team's results, my activity, whatever. Sometimes I failed, right? Other times Yuval's a lot better, has a better analytical mind than I do, and he knows his numbers better in most senses. Number two was to craft a story which doesn't expose the soft spots of your team's performance or doesn't focus on the soft spots, but instead focuses on like the inputs and associated results, right? So what were we doing to get to the results, even if the results weren't on paper yet, right? And a lot of the time in Outbound, like trying to set this up, that was very common, right? Number three, I learned over time especially with all you guys, was to start with the bottom line, right? In front of executives, keep it short and sweet, and ask yourself, like, what do the execs that know nothing about your business really care about, right? Like that was a hard lesson to learn because I'd always want to tell the story first and then get to the bottom line. And I slowly realized that wasn't something I needed to do. So yeah, those are my three main lessons from bringing into those. And then just to finish it off, like in terms of stress, I'm sure this won't work for everyone. I'm not a therapist, but I learned through the application of these lessons that like whatever you're stressing about is going to happen. So you lying awake at 5 a.m. is not gonna make a difference. And so if it's gonna happen anyway, at least be prepared, right? Which is why like I take these three lessons forward with me wherever I can, and I don't lose sleep anymore. So you've all like I asked the same to you, like
Yeah.
what are your lessons for those
I thought,
meetings? Dealing stress.
yeah, so I thought you were going to say Xanax or something, but
Unfortunately, those are illegal in Canada.
and it's the first time for me hearing about this. I think coming to these meetings, and I think I give credit to my boss because he was easing me into this type of meetings until you're right. You need to feel comfortable with the numbers, and also. And I'm not, I'm going to say it bluntly, because when you understand the numbers and you understand what story you can tell, you can make almost everything sound good. Almost. Meaning you can say, oh, but when you look at it month over month, it's working. Or when you're looking at the trend, it's looking good. Or when you're looking at the number of meetings we have, then it's looking well. Right? You can jiggle and juggle the numbers until it works. And it's also for me, when I see someone speaking like this, I'm like, they understand their numbers and they are full of shit. But I respect them because they understand the numbers well enough and they understand what's going on in their area well enough. So I know to trust them to go on. And in terms of dealing with, the stress around it, it really helped me get into this framework of what's important and what things I can actually change. There's like these two circles. I don't remember the name of the diagram. But basically you need to focus on the area where when the two circles meet, right? Something that is both important and also something I can actually affect. So when we're talking about things like this, then I'm like, I can do whatever I can, right? I have a certain amount of waking times a day. If I stress myself over something I have no control of, then it's not going to change anything. This is why I think your approach is, it's brilliant in that. Let's focus on the things I can control. When I come to this meeting and I know what, the CRO is going to say and what is the VP marketing is going to say, then I have all the ammunition I need to get over this meeting and deal with the things I can do to affect the numbers going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you wanted to, let's change to your topic of choice for today. You wanted to cover AI visibility. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I think when conducting research in B2B and especially acquiring software, and now it goes, I think, worldwide and across different verticals, meaning the research is often happening now on AI, meaning in ChatGPT, having conversation with Gemini or any other tool you like using. Copilot and so on. And when this change happened, we realized internally that we need a better way to understand what's being said there. Where is the information coming from? Meaning when you ask GPT, what is the best ITSM tool? What websites, what information does it go to gather this information? And then most importantly is to really understand where can I take action to change or to adjust what the LLMs are going to say about my business. So this is why, and I said that at the beginning of the session, we chose to work with a company called XFunnel. that just got acquired by HubSpot that's showing you exactly that. It's showing you what you look like when you ask a question. He asks the same question, all the different engines, right? Grok and Perplexity and Claude and GPT and AI Overview, all of this, I believe there's like 8 or 9, like the main ones. And you ask them, what's the best ITSM? Ranks you in what order did it give like the players in the market. And then you are able to actually see the citations, meaning the information that the AI engine based their answer on. So that's super interesting. And this is, it looks like where the world is going. I believe that SEMrush just in their convention, they launched this type of product themselves. And in Amsterdam, it was in Amsterdam.
Really?
You see everything.
Yeah, everything's happening in Amsterdam. So the way that you influence your results in all these AI chatbots is to ultimately identify the citations and the sources, and then boost your engagement there.
Yeah. For an example, we have like a lot of review sites, right? Like websites like G2, Gartner Peer Insights, that you can have your listing there, and then people leave their testimonials and stuff and a star rating and everything around it. And when you know which platforms the LLM engines choose to highlight, then you say, all right, I'm focusing my customers on leaving reviews on G2. Maybe I should shift to Trust Radius, right? Or something you might like, I don't know, Select Hub. Like there are some weird websites that the LLMs like because maybe the information there is clearer for them. Maybe it got updated more recently. You never know, right? But then you can go to those places. And this is also a good reason. I think it has been mentioned all around that one of the greatest source of information for AI is Reddit, right?
Right.
So this is a good reason to increase the visibility for your company on Reddit. Do you know if your company is doing something around Reddit?
Do I know? Are you guys? Is WalkMe?
It's a tricky question. No, I'm asking about customer gauge.
Like, do you mean is customer gauge using Reddit?
Yeah.
I don't think so today. But are we talking about ads? Or are we talking about writing posts? Because that's sneaky, right? Writing posts.
So I think it's more about understanding. It's a whole different platform. It's not like any other social media that you can just write everything and it'll be out there. On Twitter, you can write everything unless you get blocked by someone. It'll show up.
It's an aggregator.
But yeah, but on Reddit, there's like admins and different subreddits that if you write something with the wrong tone, then you'll just get axed, right?
Right. That's interesting. I mean, I think I still see advertisements and Reddit. I know that was a big push that you guys did, which is kind of cool. Does it make sense while we're on the topic to talk about TikTok as an ad revenue generator?
Yeah. People are on TikTok, right? You should meet. It's a basic kind of marketing rule of thumb, right? But your customers are there. You should be there as well. A lot of people are on TikTok. CTOs are on TikTok. I believe there's a company I follow. I forgot the name now, but they are targeting CFOs. And one of their main channels is TikTok. Like they launched TikTok, the most like down-to-earth type of advertisement. And this is one of the greatest revenue generators. So you should be where your audience is. And I think it goes, by the way, to both sales and marketing. Also, you're a salesperson, be there, right?
Only so long
it's
until
where the line blurs.
Only so long until I get in-mails in my Instagram inbox from people trying to sell me stuff.
Yeah, this is how you know you made it, right? Or this is how you know you've been.
Well,
I don't know.
Just returning to the
outreach on.
Yes, here I go. I wanted to return to the AI visibility for one quick second because, like, I'm sure. I mean, maybe they don't, but like someone like Trustpilot and Trust Radius, Gartner, what have you. Like, I wonder if they're aware of how they're cited in ChatGPT. And I wonder if they tool it in some way to try to get their, like, how do they come in as citations, right? Like, what's the back end or black box behind that?
It's a good question. I think those tools are not really B2B built, meaning when Sam Altman created
Not yet.
OpenAI, he wasn't thinking about he wasn't thinking about, oh, what an mid-market SaaS company is gonna do on this platform, or how the G2 of the world are gonna generate information. Like, I don't think it's
I
there. I
disagree.
do think if I'd be, you disagree? All
I
right,
disagree. I think that
let me hear.
this is how these platforms, if not currently, are going to make money in the future. Like it's just going to become like ranked AdWords through ChatGPT. Like they're on their mission. Again, it may not be already be happening, but they're on their mission to monetize the platform. And so if it's not already happening, which I'd be surprised, I'm sure it'll happen soon.
I agree. I saw companies take two different approaches. I believe G2 are more they're closing down, and they're not like, if you want to gather the information, then you need I don't know, to make some agreement or something. Some companies block the AI bots. I believe that Gartner, for their main website, not the review website, the main website, they can't use market overviews, documents, and something that people pay good money for. So it brings us back, I think, to this conversation about, real asset with real value is what going to be important going forward. A real survey with actual information, because now you have a GPT-5 making up some random things,
Yeah.
right? So have a trustworthy network. It's also have its value and its weight. So you whether go into the direction of, I'm putting everything, I'm making my listing AI compliant, or I go the other way and blocking this. So I can see it going both ways.
Okay. I guess time will tell. Should we flip to
But
the
but it's nice to disagree.
Yeah, yeah. You're lucky you're so far away, or else I'd come fight you over it. Just kidding. All right, man. What's your unpopular opinion of
You
the
are
week?
stronger. My unpopular opinion of the week. So I needed to get some help from LinkedIn to help me generate something that's really going to blow your mind. Okay?
Okay.
So it goes like this. You don't need to obsessively prepare to sales meetings.
You don't need to obsessively prepare for sales
Want to
meetings.
hear the full claim? Okay. So it goes like this. When you prepare too much for a meeting, then it loses the natural flow of the conversation. It loses your trustworthiness in a way. And it also puts you on a spot that you are kissing someone's ass. Really, I saw you went live with this new product, blah, blah, blah. I saw you close this deal with whomever, right? It just looks phony. Go.
Okay. I think I think there's so many layers to that. When you say meetings, are you talking about like leadership meetings, or are we talking about just like with a manager of sales with
No,
its reps?
when you're speaking to a customer or
Oh, when you're
potential
speaking to a
customer, to a
customer.
lead, right?
Oh, I see. So when you
Yeah.
come to prepared, yeah, I still would think that there's layers to it. I think that a client appreciates personalization, but we can touch on this more in the future. But like, there's a way to just be really neutral, right, with your customer, find that respect, and just have a natural conversation while still being prepared. I mean, I think that the best sales reps aren't putting in an hour of preparation before every meeting, but they've just done it enough that they're confident and they know what they need to do. And it's sales, right? You win some and you lose a lot. So when it works, it works. So yeah, no ass kissing allowed in sales meetings.
Yeah. Okay. That was my unpopular opinion. What's yours?
Okay. All right. So as a sales development leader, I think that the ratio of how much effort and preparation is put into webinars does not nearly equate the results in terms of direct impact on pipeline that people expect it to. And I will say that webinars are very useful in the sense of like you are creating thought leadership and events, you're creating buzz, like there is benefit to it from a marketing perspective and from a company perspective. But from a sales perspective, the focus that I diligently put on webinar leads every single time, crafting messaging, making sure everyone gets hit, doesn't like that all doesn't equate like what actually happens as a result of those leads. I will preface this by saying still a young guy. I haven't learned all the tricks and I'm no expert by any means, but I have a tough time with the attention paid to webinars and the expectations on generating pipeline when it's just not a reality.
Okay, let me ask a quick question before I address this. Do you feel the same about someone downloading a white paper?
I have different expectations of someone download, but in
Meaning?
that sense, so like I treat content, thought leadership exactly as that, where it's like, if you're a company and your organization is good at doing that, fantastic. That's a database of leads to market to over time. That's a database of leads to warm up. I think it's to say we had a 5% expectation of converting content downloads, for example, right? It's very low comparatively to the other calls to action on your website. But I think that, when you, Yuval, you turn to me and you say, all right, man, we got this upcoming webinar. We've got 80 signups for it. Right. And everyone goes, yay, good job. Thanks for bringing people to the webinar. But then when you get down to it, it's like, well, there's 10 duplicates of them are customers. 20 of them are not an ICP. And then you're like, all right, I have 10. I think I did the math right. I was like, all right, I have 10. Maybe you get two demos from that or something, right? Like, again, there's a lot of stuff that happens outside of the sales prospecting, which I totally respect. But yeah.
Okay, so let me start by saying that generally I agree with your unpopular opinion. I'm going to say that, and I think you mentioned that it has value. Like you can understand how it generates demand around the product, like it generates interest, and you can really show up your expertise and really show value. It's a way for marketing to show value to an end customer, which most of the time it just with customer success, with the implementation team, with the technical team, right? Now it's with us. Now here's something we can do. I think the second thing, it's because it's a planned activity, then you are expected to do whatever you can in order to convert those, meaning to prepare the emails, the follow-up, and everything around it. It does need to have its weight. And I think that a good company and a good go-to-market team is actually building these streams. In the streams, you have like the leads over here. Those are the people who come knocking at your door and be like, we want a demo now, right? Those are the people you need to convert. You need to filter. You need to understand who's ICP, who's just like, I don't know, student that's coming to the website or just spam, right? Filter those out. And then you have more layers of the webinar, the content downloads. And this is where you really need to create those playbooks of this, what the emails look like. It should have the same type of template. Like it shouldn't change that much because of what you said. Most of the effort should go to where we see ICP and where we see intent. So if we can get it somewhere else, we need to make sure of that. And we need to set the expectation for the webinar leads. What is going to happen, right? We are getting them into this type of sequence. It's not the same type of sequence as the demo leads. Maybe it needs to be longer. Maybe it needs to be, all right, once someone came to this event, then we want to make sure they get to at least 2 more events before we activate someone real around this lead. If they are ICP, if they have a very high match rate to, all right, this is exactly the company profile I'm looking for, this is exactly the job title profile I'm looking for, then go after it and really try to customize it. But if that's not the case, play the long game, right? And make sure that we set expectation, you set expectation with marketing. This is what we should do. And this is what a marketing qualified lead, what it means that this is a lead that someone needs to talk to them right now. If that's not the case, you can call it in many different names, like we're going into definitions. You can call it, I don't know, why a Yuval qualified lead, right?
Sure.
Which is a type of lead that is qualified, but not really, It's not really qualified.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's just here. You have an email address.
Like you need... Exactly. So for me, this is what needs to happen with webinar leads. And of course, and I think this is an important point, there always needs to be the option, whether it's on the cadence of the content download, webinar, an actual field event, conference, you need to have the option, whether it's on the field or online, for someone to raise their hand. And it needs to be very clear. Because with field events, and I've seen it, and with webinars, and I've seen it, when the webinar is being done right and it's made to generate intent around your product, some of the people are going to say, please talk to me. And for this, you really need to be on top of this. And this is what some teams kind of struggle around, because it takes them 1 week to upload the leads to the CRM so the PDRs can start following up.
Been there.
Or, you know, that. But, yeah, but hand raisers, go. And I'm going to add another thing. And this is the last thing. Field events, you should have a tablet. We have the technology, the tablet with a booking link that someone can go to the stand and be like,
the booking link.
I really want to sit with you and understand. Yeah, the booking link. And then they put time on their calendar, make sure it can sync with their calendar. We have the technology again, right? Click on this. We're going to meet next Monday, 4 p.m. You're going to show me, you know, the introduction, the demo. You're going to show me everything. I'm interested. I'm just in a conference and I want to gather as much Lego as I can for my kids, right?
Yeah. Very true. All right. You changed my mind a little bit on that, but I think that
it felt like a rent.
No, I think that was fair. I think there's always going to be tension in some ways around expectations, right? Of course, as always. But I think that you and I had a pretty good conversation today. Well, shall we leave it there?
Yeah, let's go. Thank you for everyone that listened to this conversation. And Sean, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, you'll see me next week. Probably you'll
see me another episode of
Only Pipeline in the Building. I love it. All right, buddy. This was fun. Thank you.
Thank you.